Hello and welcome back to the KC Dota channel. Today we're going to chat over the biggest roster moves made in the 2023 transfer season going into TI. We're right before the qualifiers and these moves could be make or break for the teams. I won't be alone though. I'm going to be joined by who I think is one of the most underrated broadcast analysts discussing the moves over with my boy Danog. So let's jump into the video and hope you guys enjoy. Alright, so we're here with my boy Danog. Let's chat some transfers for TI here. It's a 2022-2023 roster lock. How are you feeling about this? Heading into China first with Extreme Gaming, Mr. Danog.
Yeah, I mean, XM's coming in for Paparazzi. Honestly, anyone would be a downgrade for Paparazzi, so it's not a really enviable position for XM to be put in. Of course, making his way over from Piggy Killer, and I mean, it's still just one spot in China that they're going to be fighting for, right? And there's still a lot of good teams, including, Aster and IG are probably the other one.
Yeah, I mean, the Chinese qualifiers is so rough this year. I think you made a good point when we were chatting personally about how they could have waited to adjust the slots after you see how many teams qualify for TI. But I think Valve maybe wanted to put a bit of a punishment from all the match fixing and all of that kind of stuff. Give them that. But from the roster's point of view, I kind of agree with you here with Extreme Gaming losing Paparazzi. Even though I think he wasn't on his best run of form playing mid for them, it's still Paparazzi. You know, he still had those games that he can pop off and things. So yeah, a bit of a downgrade for Extreme, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And you've also got IG as well, moving Shang Yu to the side. I think they pushed him back to the academy team, IG Vitality, and that means that Zeal is coming back in. So obviously he had a bit of a stint with PSG LGD, then he went back for a little bit in the SEA region, and now he's back in China. So I'm sure he wouldn't have been happy with his last foray in China, and the man's got a lot to prove.
Yeah, interesting see how he does there. I actually got to meet him during the CDPC, so very nice dude. I think's always going to root for him. He didn't look great in the games we saw. The Magnus game, for example, he was getting a lot of flame. But you know what? It's one game. You know, you got a lot of preparation, new patch, and we'll see how it goes for him there. But let's head over to our next region. You know, my favorite region, Danog. You know, I always praise this region more than anything. NA.
For sure.
Yeah.
NA. Everyone loves NA. Everyone, especially people from NA. They just so crazy about it. And wouldn't you know it, the first player that we're going to be talking about is Hector, K1 Hector, not even from NA. He's obviously had stints here and there on different teams, but moving over from Beast Coast. And I mean, it seems like a pretty solid pickup for them. It means that Yamson moves from 1 to 5. It means that Husky unfortunately has to make way. But I really feel like it gives this roster some, like, unique aspect, kind of like what we saw Jim Park do for Beast Coast at the Bali Major.
Yeah, I think that's great analysis. And, you know, I kind of clowned Nouns a bit going into the Bali Major. There was an infamous tweet from Azure Ray where FY said, or I think it was maybe actually, it was like, at least we know in groups we'll beat Nouns. And it ended up being a really tight series, all the drama there as well. But they did show some potential there. I think a lot of the teams, besides EG, funny enough, from South America, all showed promise there. And I think, like you say, that X factor really matters. In a region like NA, we can be very stagnant, the same teams doing well, the same teams underperforming at the big events. You get a guy like Hector who has such a unique way he plays. I think this is a massive pickup and, you know, gives them fair reign in the qualifier because of all the qualification slots and things to the majors. A lot of teams qualified from NA, so I think Noun's got to be feeling good where they're at right now, right?
They do, but again, like, it's not just them that made some of these roster changes as well, right? Like, a lot of people were thinking they're just going to put Nouns down as like, oh, that one's guaranteed. But you've got Bait, who brought in V-Tune, who really has been missing from the scene for the past year and a bit. And, of course, they've got some staples playing with them. Kadaro as well, coming through from, he was playing a little bit in Western Europe, I believe, in Division 2. And then Wildcard, talking about Western Europe, bringing in Tiger and Husky, who got the boot from Nouns to make way for K1 Hector. So those are three really solid teams that are going to be competing at the very top of the boards to try and, you know, get just that one slot from NA.
So let's chat about this first move here. I think it's a move that surprised many. Obviously, we don't know in the, you know, community and stuff what goes on behind the scenes in the team for the decisions to them to make. But that's the thing. Tiger is out from OG, now into Nouns. Again, I feel like this is, like you mentioned with K1 Hector, this is like an X factor. A guy who in the past 4 who can make these crazy plays. One of his best heroes, Dark Willow, is now broken in the patch. This could be a big pickup, you know. Again, Wildcard didn't really show that much promise or whatever through the years. But it's, you know, qualifiers, crazier things can happen. So How much do you think their stonks went up, going by your profile picture there, Danog?
They went up for sure. To be honest, they couldn't have been much lower previously. They had that roster where they actually brought in a fair few experienced players, and I think they didn't even win a single series. I want to say this was in season 2
Oh
of the
no.
DBC. Like it was not good. So the only way is up for wildcard, and they've got two pretty good stable players that are going to be able to make it happen. And Tiger gets to actually play position 4 because he always seemed to be pushed to the side just to make way for whichever stand-in was coming through when he was part of the full OG roster.
So this last team in NA, right, is my favorite changes by far in the region. Even though I'm a big K1 fan, to see V-Tune, Dindy assembled the whole, Eastern European stack with all the Ukrainians, it's exciting because firstly, I think, everybody likes to talk about Western Europe in Dota nowadays, but I think Eastern Europe has really risen in stocks again, going back to your profile picture. And they've been a really strong region. A lot of these players showed promise. I think V-Tune had a great stint on Navi when he was there, maybe in the limelight and things. And again, NA is a region that's up for the taking. And I think Bait, the fact that they managed to stay in Div 1 already showed some promise. Dendi had that infamous Pudge game after like 12 hours of qualifiers. And it's one thing I'm going to believe, right? It's one thing I'm going to believe in this team, Danog, because they just got that. They just got that, special thing about them. They're a refugee squad, in NA. What better storyline could you have?
Exactly. I mean, I'm going to use a phrase that you like to use. You think they've got that dog in them?
Yes.
Does Bait have that dog? The little dog taking a big fight. I really feel like they're going to be a fan favorite coming through with these NA calls.
Let's go. I love it. Now, to get into some more serious regions, the Dota community's most serious region in their eyes. Let's go to Western Europe, right? Because the first change comes in a team I was a big fan of, and the player that's no longer in the squad, Danog, I was the biggest fan of. Mr. Amar, the friendly, we'll call him for this YouTube video. He's gone, and most unfortunately has not been added to any roster. Spoiler, guys, for this year's TI. So we're going to have a TI without Amar. I'm devastated, but this Quest roster did show promise at Riyadh. Even without Amar, they managed to play some really good Dota. So the guy they've got to replace him here is Toby. What are we making of this change here?
I mean, to be honest, this isn't a slight at Toby. Loved him on Viking GG. I think maybe the previous patch just didn't really suit his style. And, this one is going to be a lot more favorable considering, there's the lane dominators that he loves to play, the Legion Commander, the Slardar. They've come back a whole lot more, especially Slardar. I feel like he's a lot stronger than it used to be. But it kind of was like... well, who's left? Who's the free agent that's left? And Toby is solid enough. He's been up there at the pinnacle. It wouldn't be his first TI if they did end up qualifying. So I can see him still making waves. And remember, there's 2 spots for Western Europe as well. So that's something that we always need to take into account. It's just not a one and done.
That's a very good point. And I think a good point one of my friends made on the analyst desk to me was that they think Quest is actually better without Amar because they already have star quality players. You know what I'm saying? Amar is that superstar player. But TA2000 has really shown himself, in my opinion, to be one of the best carries in the world right now. And I think Noob especially was kind of took that backseat because you had these 2 super hard carries in your safe lane and your off lane before. And my homie was just saying that, just all Quest need is a stable off-laner, right? And the rest of the team can shine. So maybe this could work out. They have time to practice, not a lot of time because the patch is dropping in a few days. I mean, the qualifiers in a few days and the patch just dropped. But, the foundations is really solid there for Quest. I think they should still be one of the favorites for the qualifier. And if they dump to the qualifier, I think teams are going to be really worried at TI itself,
Yeah, for sure. I want to see how Noob does without his Snapfire, though. He really was carrying a lot of the games off the back of that and really doesn't feel quite as strong anymore. So we'll see. But, of course, it's not just Quest that have made changes, right? OG as well, making a couple. Seb, you can't keep a good man down. He's just come back. He's going to be playing the position 4, and he's going to be playing it alongside Kitrak, who was part of their most successful outing for this entire year. They got 5th, 6th at the Berlin Major when he was playing. Some people might say that Mind Control was a big part of that, but Kitrak certainly is no slouch either.
Okay, Danog, here's my thing for the OG. Enough with the anime bullshit. We've seen this storyline too many times play out, right? I've watched Dragon Ball Z my whole life. Every fight, Goku's gonna lose at the start. He's gonna charge up. He's gonna watch a friend get harmed, and then they're gonna, he's gonna dumpster everybody. And I feel like OG has had that plot armor for long enough. No more. I don't want to see any more anime storylines. Yes, Seb is a legend, My respect for him, out of this world. Kitrak, he's proven himself, like you said, in the Berlin Major, many other showings in the past. But also, if you want to play, the harsher point of view, this is technically two Div 2 players coming up to the squad getting promoted, right? Last minute things, yes, OGF succeeded with last minute in the past. And, in Riyadh, they were really uninspiring. But it is a new patch, it is OG, they do have that plot armor, so they could still be dangerous. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Well, where do you rate them on the stocks department? Like, with Tiger gone and Seb stepping back into the main roster, it almost felt like he never left because every second tournament is there, and obviously Kitrak coming as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say, right? It can just be who adjusts best to the patch, honestly, just because I really feel like, again, similar to Toby, DM needs to play those lane dominators. He needs to be the one that's able to just bully people in the lanes, and it really didn't feel like he was ever given the tools to be able to play that starring role, especially. I mean, who knows how it's going to be, right? Seb's still going to be playing the 4. Seb still is a greedy position 4, so
Yeah.
how much is there left on the map for someone like DM to be able to take?
That's a very fair point. Now, I know we spoke about Quest like 2-3 minutes ago already, but I just also wanted to say, your point about Noob, it's only coming back to me now about the Snapfire getting banned out or significantly nerfed. He did seem like one of the most extreme universal spammers, like every game he was playing a universal hero. So yeah, that's that. But now we get to go to our favorite region, Danog, one of our favorites. And for this transfer video, I've saved the best for last. We're heading over to Southeast Asia, baby. Boom Esports took Baboka for the first time in his career out of China and added him to the squad. Thoughts and opinions, sir?
I mean, I'm interested to see how it works, right? Because for everything that we were hearing about how he was meshing back on Asta, it was like he just wasn't talking. Like it was like you were playing a pub with someone that was communication banned, basically. He just never said anything. You were expected to just read his mind for a lot of stuff. It's mechanically still very solid, but you take that plus now playing in a new region where everyone's not going to be speaking his most comfortable language in Mandarin Chinese. How is that all going to work? I'm interested to see if it's just going to be a lot of communications happening between him and WS and Xnova, but Natsumi and Yopaj really won't be able to do all that much talking with him.
All right, you just burst the bubble. I'm not hype anymore. We're going to go into negative KC mode here. I kind of agree, right? It did not leave under good circumstances in China. And if you're having a bad run in Asta, again, apparently there's a whole that drama around the team we don't even know or whatever. But from a technical Dota point of view, the only teams that beat Asta were teams that were supposed to, like actual S-tier minimum semi-finals level performance teams. They were losing to the guys of Gaming Gladiators, Quest, etc. So only the best teams were really beating them. And boom, they were a bit shaky in SEA, let's not lie here. Natsumi with the infamous Naga Siren play for getting the Aegis. Winter was a big fan of that. Had a lot to say around the analyst desk. They never looked like, even though CE can be an unstable region at times, I think they really took that to the extreme. I think the best game I saw them play is when Mushi came in as the coach. Like, how is that? How does that make sense, but it happens. But again, it is just 1 week, so maybe we'll see something great. But I'm not a believer right now.
Okay, I could see them. You reckon they could make top 4? I think they could make top 4, but it would be a real dark horse sort of story if they were to be able to even just make grand finals, to be honest.
I mean, okay, I know it's a transfers focused video, and I will end up doing Southeast Asia content, but let's just talk about this for a moment, right? Talon Esports, one of the best teams in the world, qualified straight to TI. But your last winners of the CDPC in the form of Bleed are in the qualifiers. Execration, who qualified for every single major this year, I believe, are in the qualifiers. Blacklist Rivalry, a team who really look like they've put it together and finished second in the last DPC and had okay showings at the major. Not great, but not worse than any other C teams on a similar caliber. Also are looking quite decent. I think this qualifier is very competitive. If we're going to go to who's my dark horse pick going to be, Danog, we're going to get to the last and final change of this video and of the roster season going into TI, and that's no one in SMG. I'm beyond hyped for this because, I was a fan of that old VP team. I still think, Snare said 100 times during Bali that Gaming Gladiators is the best team ever in the history of Dota. I maintain it was VP. And I think no one was a big part of that, even though OG didn't look great and they completely disbanded now. Again, he was one of the shining sparks in that team. And you know, how crazy would it be if no one out of nowhere comes and just dumps the entire C region? I mean, I'm a big fan of the region, but you can't knock a storyline like that, you know?
Yeah, the one I feel worse for is poor Chidori, right? Like, he just gets kicked to the side, and he was doing a lot of the carrying for this poor SMG
Yeah.
team. So I really feel bad for the guy. It doesn't look like he's been picked up anywhere as well. So the man's going to be able to miss out on TI qualifiers, and really through no fault of his own. So hopefully for next year he's able to get into a solid team, because I really feel like there's a lot of potential there with Chidori.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. He was one of the shining sparks. And the thing is, the most difficult part about making predictions within the C region is that obviously sometimes, games can be quite throwy, games can be quite boring at times. But I also feel like, as Talon is the best example of this, they're legitimately one of the best teams in the world right now, and they finished fourth in the last CDPC. C teams versus C teams is a whole different beast. I mean, there was, historically people used to say China versus China. They're always like, Aster, for example, could beat all the Chinese teams that could never beat Western teams. But what happens in C versus C games, any team on any day can best another team. So
Yeah.
who knows what we're gonna see? I think that's the qualifier, other than Western EU, I'm most excited for, and we will see.
Talon were just doing their C teams a favor, They said, look, we don't need TI points anymore. You guys do. We're actually going to take a rest, and look at where it got them. Riyadh Masters finishing third place. I'd say that's a pretty nice way to be able to take just a mini break, Obviously would have been great to represent their home region at the Bali Major, but in the grand scheme of things, worked out pretty damn well for them.
All right, perfect. Thank you for all your analysis there, Danog. Before you go, any last shout outs, opinions, anything you want to put out into the world?
Spam Witch Doctor and Invoker before they're nerfed too much.
Oh no, ruining pubs. Thank you all for watching this video. That's our video on the rosters going into the TI qualifiers. Thank you to Danog. Follow him on Twitter, and see you guys for some new content for the rest of the season. Thank you, and bye-bye.